Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Allison, and I'm the Director of Nonprofit and Community Outreach here at AdvisaCon. I'd like to welcome you all to today's webinar, Best Practices in Managing Projects with OneNote. A quick summary of who we are here at AdvisaCon. We're a passionate group of authors, teachers, consultants, and technologists that care about helping organizations learn, scale, and grow with a mix of methodology and technology to deliver results. No matter the company size, our team specializes in maximizing your business and your personal productivity by leveraging the Microsoft technology experience. We want to help you do your job better so you can go and make the world a better place. We offer bi-weekly webinars here at AdvisaCon, which we like to refer to as Webinar Wednesdays, in which we spend about 30 minutes to an hour teaching topics ranging from Microsoft Project, Project Server, Project Online, Power BI, Visio, SharePoint, to project, program, and portfolio management and methodology approaches. With attending any of our Webinar Wednesdays, you will receive free PDUs. Today's webinar, Best Practices in Managing Projects with OneNote, you will receive a half PDU. Now, before we get started, I'd like to go over a few things so you know how to participate in today's event. Please review the control panel that should be on the top right of your screen. This control panel gives you the option to adjust the volume, screen, and other settings. The audience is muted, so in order to ask questions, you will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and, time permitting, address them at the end of today's presentation. It is now my pleasure to introduce the presenter of today's webinar, Ken Lowen. Ken is one of AdvisaCon's senior project managers and a favorite instructor for the Webinar Wednesday series. I will now hand this over to Ken so we can get this webinar started. Take it away, Ken.
Thanks very much, Allison, and hello, everybody. Welcome again to Webinar Wednesday. I'm very excited to be able to present to you some of the information about one of my favorite project management tools, Microsoft OneNote. It's a key component of the Microsoft Office and Office 365 suites, and I hope that you find some gems in the presentation that I'm about to deliver for you. I'd love to see an indication if you can find the raise your hand button over in your GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar control panel of those who use OneNote already. Or if you, great. Oh, so I'm seeing a pretty good subset of our group, a pretty good percentage of the folks use OneNote regularly. Well, hopefully I'll get each of you some interesting new features, and I will show some of the others, some of the reasons why you ought to consider using OneNote. Our outline today is we're going to talk about key capabilities of OneNote so that you'll find some features in there. We're going to talk about how to get to OneNote and then draw those together into some typical use cases for you in your role as project managers, and then talk briefly, if you're using, as an example, Evernote. Let's talk about how you can migrate to OneNote and why you might consider doing so. And then, as Allison indicated, if we have time left in our time together, we'll address some questions and answer. But do send in questions and answers through the questions pane in the GoToWebinar panel so that we have the opportunity to address those if time permits or following up afterwards. On with the show. So staying with our current tool of PowerPoint, let's talk briefly about some of the key capabilities of OneNote. So I really look at OneNote as an opportunity to organize my thinking, my note-taking, and certainly saving time. I think one of the second key feature that I use right now is to access my notes for access my notes anywhere. And that is a huge benefit to me as I work pretty mobile. I'm often found at my desk working with clients around the world via web conference, but we'll talk about what anywhere means. And then more, we'll talk about some of the key capabilities that we've got relative to OneNote. So with that, let's actually pull up OneNote and start working in the tool that we're demonstrating today. So I used OneNote today in preparation for today's webinar to organize my notes about Webinar Wednesday. And so I've got a lot of information that we're going to go through here. What you're seeing on the screen at the far left is my group of notebooks relating to various topics. And so I have the capability to collapse my various notebooks and look at these in terms of topics and subject matter, subject information. So at the top, you see my general notebook for work at Advisacon. Right below that, referencing a project that we're doing for the city of Portland, Oregon, a project online implementation. Well, this notebook actually resides in their project online project site so that I'm able to collaborate with others, and that will get to another one of our key features. So I've got a series of notebooks that capture information of similar type over here on the left side. So then the next side is when I'm in a particular notebook, you see that I've got subsections. So right here, I've got clients as a subsection, and then I've got internal notebooks on various topics, sales proposals, and training information here. And then within the internal notebook that I'm working in, I've got tabs. So tabs and sections are a key way of organizing information in OneNote. And then within the particular tab I'm in, the one that's headed up Webinar Wednesday over here, I've got a series of pages. So we've got a very familiar notebook frame of reference here, and it should be easy to translate what we're used to doing. I first found OneNote when I was working at Microsoft, and the team that I joined actually used spiral-bound notebooks for caring for and maintaining a lot of the notes on our various projects. But there, as a spiral-bound notebook, as you're aware, you run out of pages and you've got to either go to another section or get another notebook, or if you end your project before you run out of paper, you've either got to rip out paper and you end up with all those fluffy edges, or you waste paper. But I found OneNote, and of course it automatically sizes to fit the amount of information that I want to do. And a lot of these other features are even more powerful than my handwritten notes were on paper. So we've got a section in here that's labeled for our unfiled notes. And so when I save notes without doing specific topics and areas, they end up in a quick notes feature. And so that I'm able to then migrate them to some other place that I want to do. Handwriting and drawing. If I had a touch screen or a stylus on this particular page, I could be handwriting and drawing on it. I can certainly pretend to be drawing here by selecting, say, a red pen, and I can outline that information for us and certainly change it as much as I want to in color, thickness, and so on and so forth to reformat the information or otherwise make it even more helpful. And even, you know, as you're used to, why don't I just highlight that? Just as easy as you would expect, and if I was using a touch screen, it would be even easier. So let me escape back to my highlighter here. Text and images. So just like in Word, I can do a Control-B or a Control-U, and I will underline, or a Control-I, and I'll italicize text, just like I'm used to doing in Word. I can embed multimedia in here so that I can insert. If I come up to my insert, I can record audio using a microphone on my computer, or record video if I've got a camera. I can also pull online media into this particular OneNote document and save that as a part of the document that is then memorializing whatever it was I was doing or talking about. Templates. So using templates in OneNote is a great capability that I developed first when I was working at Microsoft. The new guy on the team that I joined was responsible for taking our team's meeting notes at our regular meetings, and so I quickly built a template in OneNote to capture those. And so what I've done now is I've created a template for this particular tab in OneNote, this Webinar Wednesday tab, so that when I click on Add Page, what you'll see added in here in the section at the far right where I have pages is a new tab called Status Report that uses a template that I've set up in here. So let's take a look at how we can set up a template. I created this document, and literally I took an existing status report form in Word, copied all of the blank section headers and table formats and such like that, pasted them into this document. Then I came up here on my insert menu in OneNote, went to page templates, selected page templates, and then all the way down here at the lower right corner, I have save current page as a template. And so I just selected that and I saved that as a template. And one of the things that I elected to do when I saved that as a template was I saved it as the default template for this section. And I can change from that template to another one just by looking at other templates that I want to use. But I've got that template right here, and so I can always create another one here or anywhere else in my OneNote environment using the existing templates, including the ones that Microsoft makes available to you out of the box. So templates are a great capability. Let's go back to our notes. It's easy to reorganize, and so I can literally just click on this particular item here, put my four-headed pointer just to the left of it, grab it, and I'm going to move it right back up here next to templates because that's the topic I'm going to talk about next. If I wanted to, I could shift it in and it takes on the formatting of an indented bullet in here. And certainly I could have come in here and done an indent or an outdent using my indent outdent buttons as I wanted to, and in fact the same shortcut key combination, Alt Shift right or Alt Shift left, that I use in many other Microsoft Office applications. This is actually a key combination that I use and teach my clients about in Microsoft Project when you're building an indented project schedule. Automatic save and sync. There's not a save button in OneNote. Your content is automatically saved, and what you want to be sure to do is synchronize your notebooks to your multiple devices. And that speaks to the idea of where you can find OneNote, which we'll get to down below. We'll follow up with that topic a little bit more. But it also deals with this idea of portability, or the notebook in the cloud, so that you're taking your notebook wherever and you've got it with you all the time. There is a great application available on mobile phones called Office Lens, available from the Microsoft Office Store for free, that will allow you to take screen grabs of your whiteboard notes, as an example, or other photographs, and automatically import them into a OneNote notebook. So huge time saver there. If you're in a room where you're actually keeping your notes on a whiteboard, you can easily capture them to OneNote. And frankly, that's one of the biggest organizing and saving time topics that I use up at the top. Is I try to take all of my meeting notes in OneNote, because as soon as I'm done with the meeting, while I'm still on this tab, and even before the meeting ends, I can just go up to the Backstage view, select Send, email the page, and I'll get an Outlook new meeting or new email window opening up right here, and I can just insert the list of addressees that I'm going to send this note to, and they'll get my notes, and I can do that before I even shut down my laptop. I don't even need to go back to my office and then spend time closing out a meeting rather than just actually going on to the next one. Privacy. Search. So one of the great benefits you can do with your notes is you can search, and it will also do optical character recognition. And your mileage may vary on how OCR works for you. I don't try to use it very often because I actually type a lot faster than I handwrite, but you can use the search capability up here. I can say, say professional, as one of the words in Microsoft Project Professional, and I am now seeing in the title of several of my documents, I've got professional there, and then on various pages, I've got professional, or at least the shortened version of professional. So I can easily find terms throughout all of these notes, and certainly in a handwritten notebook, I'm not finding that. Privacy. I can just right-click on this particular page and I can password protect this section. And so Microsoft will then use the security features in Office 365 to password protect my content if I've got some that I care about in that way. Freeform pages, I can play around with my formats there. I can add in a drawing of some sort right here. You know, whatever it is, maybe I'm drawing a Gantt chart, or I'm pasting in some sort of another image. So maybe I take a screen grab of my OneDrive or my GoToMeeting window, and I bring it over here, and I can paste that picture right in here and drag it around wherever I want it. So very flexible capability there for freeform pages. And one of the best features of OneNote, it's free with the full functionality. So many similar types of applications that are out there, your free version will be of limited functionality. But OneNote, Microsoft made it free, I believe, in 2014. Where to find OneNote? You'll find OneNote on your workstation with Office as no upcharge. So it's included as a feature of all of the Office product suites. You can go to OneNote in the cloud, OneNote.com, and you can use it for free there. It's a free feature, or it's included with Project Online and Office 365. And so to that note, I want to go over to my Office 365 environment here. Actually, let's go out to my project. So I'm literally in Project Online right now. I'm on a SharePoint project site for a particular project in the environment. And in my quick launch bar right here, whoops, at the left side where it says Notebook, out of the box, Project Online brings you this connection to OneNote. And so then I've got my familiar notebooks, sections, and meeting notes functionality here. And I've got a ribbon on which I can pin down, and I can use a lot and most of my same features and functionality. And if there's a feature that I don't find in the web version, I can quickly open it in OneNote on the desktop with this link right here. Additionally, I can choose to synchronize those notebooks to my OneDrive and open them in my OneNote here. And so I can choose to go to a particular project notebook like one of these for our various clients, or a number of others in my OneNote desktop environment. And so that I can easily navigate among these various notebooks, and my note-taking doesn't have to change. I don't have to be carrying different hard copy notebooks around for various projects. When I'm off working remotely, I've still got access to all of these documents. And in fact, when I work on a particular notebook for a particular client here, then those notes are then automatically saved into the cloud and accessible by any of my colleagues who have access to that same Project Online environment. So huge portability, huge capability to get back and forth to your information and to share it. This works on a PC or a Mac. There are clients for both, and it works on mobile. So I've got a OneNote client, a native OneNote client from Microsoft on my mobile phone. And so I can open up notes, I can take notes with that. I can, when I edit notes on my phone, I've got the full capability to edit them, and they're saved automatically into the cloud. So let's talk some typical use cases in project management. I'm sure I've identified the three that I've identified here. They're very broad areas, and you may be able to identify others that you've got, and we welcome either questions or comments about those in the GoToWebinar pane. But to-do lists. It's very easy to put together a to-do list that I've got to schedule project kickoff, and maybe I'm going to review the statement of work, and I'm going to identify key stakeholders as a part of that project, and schedule start of requirements gathering. And so maybe those are key tasks that I want to. I can, if I just go up to my ribbon, you'll see I've got some tag capabilities, and the to-do tag is one of the most frequently used, so it appears up there in a couple of different ways, but I literally can be down here on the item and just do a Control-1 as you see the, whoops, I'm sorry, I'm using Control-1 as the shortcut for my screen zoom, but I can do the button there, and just by incrementing through that, I can either insert the ability to do a check, I can check it off, or I can remove it, and I can also do the same thing to multiple items just by clicking on the to-do tag, and then when I've done them, I just click, 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 and they are done. I've got a capability to add these as Outlook tasks so that I can say, well, these are tasks that I'm going to do today, and those will appear in my Outlook task list. Emailing the page, so the shortcut to doing what I showed you how to do from the Backstage menu, and I can add meeting details from my Outlook calendar. So one of the great things that happens with the integration between the Microsoft Office suite is if you go into Outlook, and I've got mine closed so that I can focus on this meeting without calendar reminders popping up, is you can right click on a meeting in your calendar and set up meeting notes right from that. It will bring the topic of the meeting and the list of attendees and other notes from your meeting notice from your appointment over into OneNote automatically, and so give you a quick kind of slingshot approach into working with the project, or working with the information from that meeting as you start your meeting notes. Requirements gathering, you could certainly use a template for requirements gathering to make sure that you're capturing all the relevant information, and the freeform note of these pages allows you to be very flexible as a conversation with your client takes you down multiple paths. Then you can drag content around to reorganize it after the meeting. If you're doing kind of chain of thought note-taking. We showed the template for doing meeting notes. You can have as many templates in there as you want to, and you've got a variety of different ways to organize your content in here. One of the things that I do quite a lot is I capture my notes for Power BI in here, and so I've got reference content. So effectively I'm doing coding, and I'm using the OneNote notebook to capture that information. We've got some documented procedures in here that various members of our team follow, and so we have those in a shared OneNote notebook, but I can go down to my sales demo environment, and the link to the sales notebook in Microsoft Teams site is right here, and so I can reference that, and everybody in my Microsoft team can get to that. Which reminds me of another place you can find OneNote that I didn't mention specifically, Microsoft Teams. So when you build a Microsoft team or an Office 365 group, both of those will have a OneNote notebook in them. You can also, interestingly enough, as we go back to our notes, you can email to OneNote. And so there is a great blog post on Microsoft Office blogs on how to do that, and maybe we'll address that in a future webinar Wednesday. But all you have to do is connect up your various email addresses to OneNote.com, tell it where you're going to want those meeting notices to, or those emails to appear by default, and then any email that you want to memorialize to a particular notebook, say it's the project notebook that you're sharing with your project team, you just email it to me@onenote.com, and it recognizes when it comes from a certain address that me@onenote.com means you, and we'll put the notes in the notebook that you've identified. Okay, so one of the other things that I've identified that we can do here is we can migrate to OneNote easily from Evernote. And so Microsoft has given us a nice little blog post, which I am flipping to. Here we go. And so there's a OneNote importer tool that will read all of your Evernote content and migrate it into your OneNote notebook. They've even got a little video here on how to do that. So should you be working with Evernote, what I recommend is take a look at OneNote. Recognize that OneNote is free, and so it might well be worth an opportunity for you to just test it out. It's easy to migrate your content over from Evernote and be able to test this with your real content. So look forward to hearing stories from you about how your Evernote experience works, or how your trial of OneNote works. So thanks so much for your kind attention today. Allison.
Do you have excuse me, do you have time for a question? We do have a couple. Looks like we've got a couple minutes left.
Sure, that'd be great. Let me open up my questions panel here. I see the first one here is, what's a good way to use OneNote with SharePoint? And that's great. So recognizing that your SharePoint site in Project Online is an example of how we are using OneNote with SharePoint. When I pull up my SharePoint sites, and let me just go to that project right now, what we're seeing specifically is that we have a link to OneNote in the cloud. And so we are saving our OneNote in OneDrive for Business, essentially, and we're connecting up the OneNote to our SharePoint. So it's not a web app or similar that we would embed, but what we do is we can standardize a connection. And so there's no magic to this link over here. If you've got SharePoint that you're using outside of Project Online, certainly you could implement the same type of a connection. So thanks for that question. Let's see, we've got another question here. It says, how do you display your list of notebooks on the left side? Great question. So I've got mine pinned, and so I'm going to unpin it to show you. And what we have right up here is we've got a drop down that shows my list of notebooks and also contains my open other notebooks so that I can find more. And with this pin, it just appears there now at the left side, and I can shrink or expand that to make better use of my allowable screen real estate. I'm looking at a big desktop monitor right now, but certainly when I'm looking at this on my tablet, I will routinely unpin that and focus on the page at hand. Great question. Any ideas in OneNote for logs, issue logs and such like that? This would be a great place to keep issue logs. Using your chapters or sections framework or individual notebooks. So if you're keeping a notebook for a project, certainly a tab could be issues, or if tabs represent projects, then pages could represent issues. The things that you do commonly with those tabs would allow you to search on those more easily. So you could use similar types of content by using a template to create it. And then what you might want to do is you might want to customize your tags, as you can do when I drop down on the tags drop down, and you'll select various different elements that describe your issues or prioritize your issues. And so that would be a great way to do that. You can also, in that template, select maybe a list of people on your project who you're assigning that issue to, either as an owner or the responsible party. And then a question, have we heard of organizations using OneNote as a repository for official system documentation? I've worked with organizations that do topics that might be related to that. Most often what I've had conversations with is that they're looking for a tool that is going to allow pretty rigorous document control And I think that I kind of consider OneNote, in my experience, to sort of be the opposite of that. This is pretty freeform and allows you to rapidly make collaboration type changes, and so that your colleagues can be sharing these notebooks with you and making changes to that. So if your definition or your business requirements for your official system documentation are that they be locked down, you may want to use a different tool, but this might be a really good tool to use in developing that documentation and putting out a copy of it for commentary with your team. Certainly a good idea. I think, Allison, I've addressed all of the questions.
You did a great job, Ken. Thank you so much. I even learned a lot. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. We welcome your questions, suggestions, and we want your feedback. If you would like more information, please do contact us. Once we exit today's webinar, you will receive a short survey on the presentation, and we would appreciate it if you would complete it and submit the survey in order to receive your PDUs. You will also receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. On behalf of Advisacon, Ken and myself, we thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you in future webinars. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.